The Terran Alliance war with the Krell Dominion had lasted 15 years too long. Millions dead, dozens of colonies destroyed, and still no end in sight. The military leadership knew they needed a game-changer. In the massive orbital shipyard above Earth's North Pole, Admiral Hanji watched through reinforced glass as thousands of construction drones moved like glowing insects around an enormous metal skeleton. Even unfinished, the ship was breathtaking. At 18 kilometers long, the Leviathan would be the largest vessel ever built by human hands. "The quantum drive is still giving us problems," Commander Park said, standing just behind her. His reflection in the glass showed dark circles under his eyes. Like most of the Leviathan team, he hadn't slept properly in weeks. Han didn't turn from the window. "How much longer?" "6 months, Admiral. Maybe 5 if we push the crews to triple shifts." Han's lips pressed into a thin line. "Recent intelligence shows the Krell are gathering resources for something big. We need Leviathan combat ready in 3 months." Park barely managed to hide his shock. "Admiral, with all due respect, that's impossible. The gravity lance hasn't even been tested outside simulation. The hull's quantum mesh is only 60% complete." Han finally turned to face him. She was a small woman, but her presence filled the room. 25 years in space warfare had left her face weathered, her black hair streaked with gray. The scar running from her left temple to jaw was a reminder of the Battle of Proxima, where she'd lost her first command and nearly her life. 3 months, Commander. Make it happen." Park nodded stiffly. "Yes, Admiral." Han returned her gaze to the window. "I want to see the engine core." They took a shuttle across the shipyard to Leviathan's stern, where the most dangerous and revolutionary part of the ship was being assembled. The artificial singularity drive was theoretical until 2 years ago, when Dr. Kim had finally proven it could be contained and controlled. If it worked, Leviathan would have more power than the entire Terran fleet combined. The shuttle docked at a temporary airlock. Inside, engineers and technicians rushed around a circular chamber 50 meters across. At its center, suspended within multiple containment fields, was a sphere of perfect darkness no larger than a baseball. Dr. Kim hurried over to meet them. "Admiral Han, we weren't expecting you today." "How is our heart doing, Doctor?" Han asked, staring at the tiny black hole. "Stable. We've managed to increase power output by 30% since last week," Kim said with obvious pride. "But we still need months of testing before." "You have 3 months to completion," Han interrupted. "Commander Park will brief you on the new timeline." Kim's face fell. "Admiral, that's not possible." "The risks. The Krell don't give us the luxury of caution," Han said sharply. "Every day we delay is another human colony at risk." She turned to address everyone in the chamber. "I know what I'm asking, but 15 years ago, the Krell attacked without warning or mercy. They destroyed New Shanghai. 5 million dead in an afternoon." Her voice hardened. "I was there. I saw what they did. Since then, they've attacked 23 colonies. They don't negotiate. They don't show mercy." The room had gone silent. Even the constant mechanical noises seemed to have quieted. "Leviathan isn't just another warship," Han continued. "It's our answer to the Krell. It's humanity saying, 'Enough. No more lost colonies. No more mass graves.'" She looked at the dark sphere at the room's center. 3 months. Whatever it takes." After the meeting, Park walked with Han back to the shuttle. "The engineering teams will need additional resources," he said, "and we'll have to cut some of the planned weapon systems to meet the deadline." "Everything but the gravity lance," Han replied. "That stays." Park hesitated. "Admiral, there's something else. Command is concerned about. About you." Han raised an eyebrow. "Oh, your history with the Krell. New Shanghai was your home colony. Is there a question in there, Commander?" Park chose his words carefully. "They want to be sure this mission is about protecting humanity, not revenge." Han stopped walking. For a moment, Park thought he'd gone too far. Then she sighed. My family died at New Shanghai. My parents, my sister, her children. Her voice was quiet but steady. For years, I dreamed of making the Krell pay. But this isn't about revenge, Park. This is about survival. She looked back toward the distant skeleton of Leviathan. The Krell won't stop. Their entire culture is built around expansion through conquest. If we don't stop them here, with this ship, there won't be a human civilization left to save. Park nodded slowly. I'll have the new work schedules prepared by morning. We'll make the deadline. Admiral. Good. Han's eyes remained fixed on the distant Leviathan. Because that ship is more than a weapon. It's hope. As they returned to the shuttle, alarms suddenly blared throughout the shipyard. Red emergency lights flashed in every corridor. What's happening? Han demanded, grabbing the nearest technician. Krell ships, the young woman gasped. They've jumped in system. A full battle group heading straight for the shipyard. Han and Park exchanged looks of shock. The Krell had never attacked Earth directly before. They know, Han whispered. Somehow, they know about Leviathan. The race to complete humanity's ultimate warship had just become desperate. The massive warship Leviathan slowly disconnected from Earth's orbital shipyard, its engines glowing with soft blue light. 3 months of round-the-clock work had transformed the skeletal frame into humanity's most powerful weapon. Standing at 18 kilometers long, the ship dwarfed everything in Earth's orbit. Admiral Han watched from the command chair on the bridge. Around her, 200 crew members worked at their stations. The bridge was surprisingly quiet, with only the soft beeping of computers and occasional whispered conversations breaking the silence. All systems operational. Admiral, reported Commander Park from his station. Dark circles under his eyes showed the toll of the rushed construction schedule. Though I should note that 43 systems are still running on temporary patches. Han nodded. They had met their impossible deadline, but at a cost. Leviathan was functional but untested. In normal times, the ship would undergo months of trials before seeing combat. But these were not normal times. Status report on the Krell fleet, Han asked. Lieutenant Kim, the chief sensor officer, looked up from her display. Latest intelligence confirms 327 vessels massed at Proxima Centauri. They appear to be waiting for something, possibly final reinforcements before attacking Earth. The crew on the bridge exchanged nervous glances. The Krell attack on the shipyard 3 months ago had been driven off, but at great cost. Everyone knew Earth's defenses couldn't withstand the full Krell armada. Navigation. Plot a quantum jump to Proxima Centauri, Han ordered. We'll emerge at the system edge, maximum distance from their fleet. Admiral, Park said quietly, moving to stand beside her chair. The gravity lance has never been fired outside of simulation. Dr. Kim recommends at least 3 test firings before combat use. Han's expression didn't change. If the lance fails, we still have conventional weapons. If we wait, Earth burns. She raised her voice slightly. Navigation, time to ready. Transit to Proxima in 5 minutes, Admiral, replied the young officer. Throughout the massive ship, announcements called crew to battle stations. In the engine room, engineers monitored the artificial singularity that powered the vessel, a contained black hole no bigger than a baseball yet containing the energy of a small star. On the weapons deck, technicians made final adjustments to the gravity lance, Leviathan's main weapon. The lance could briefly create a controlled gravitational distortion similar to a black hole at a distance, powerful enough to crush even the largest enemy ships. All hands, prepare for quantum jump, announced the ship's eye. Secure all stations. Han gripped the arms of her command chair. Quantum jumps were never pleasant, even with the best inertial dampeners. Singularity drive at full power, reported engineering. Quantum field stable. Jump in 3, 2, 1. For an instant, reality seemed to bend. Every crew member felt a moment of disorientation as space folded around the massive ship. Then, with a shudder, Leviathan emerged at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system. Jump complete, navigation announced. Position confirmed at Proxima system boundary. Sensors report. Han ordered, fighting down a wave of nausea from the jump. Lieutenant Kim's fingers flew across her console. Scanning. Admiral, I'm detecting the Krell fleet. 335 vessels in tight formation around Proxima. They're facing away from us, toward the jump point to Earth. The main view screen showed the Krell Armada, a mass of angular, predatory-looking ships with their distinctive red energy signatures. At the center was the massive dreadnought that served as their flagship, nearly 5 kilometers long. They haven't detected us yet, Kim added with surprise. Our stealth systems are working better than expected. Han nodded. This was their chance. Weapons, bring the gravity lance online. Target their flagship. Admiral, Park said, recommend we open with conventional weapons first. Test the lance under less critical. The lance, Commander, Han repeated firmly. We need to show them our full strength immediately. On the weapons deck, Chief Weapons Officer Choi activated the gravity lance. Power from the Singularity Core diverted to the massive weapon spanning the front quarter of the ship. Gravity lens charging, Choi reported over the comm. Targeting solutions locked on Krell flagship. Charge at 60%, 80%. Full charge achieved. Han took a deep breath. Fire. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, on the view screen, space itself appeared to bend around the Krell flagship. The massive dreadnought began to contort, its hull plates buckling inward as if crushed by an invisible hand. Smaller ships nearby were pulled toward the distortion, colliding with each other. In seconds, the flagship imploded into a compressed mass no larger than a shuttle. 17 nearby vessels suffered the same fate before the effect dissipated. The bridge crew stared in stunned silence. The simulation had predicted the lance's power, but seeing it in reality was something else entirely. Target destroyed, Choi reported, her voice shaking slightly. 18 ships confirmed destroyed. Lance cooldown cycle initiated. On the view screen, the remaining Krell fleet had erupted into chaos. Ships scattered in all directions, their formation shattered by the sudden loss of their command vessel. They're detecting us now, Kim reported. Multiple ships altering course to intercept. Han nodded. Bring conventional weapons online. Prepare for defensive maneuvers. She looked around at her crew, seeing the mix of fear and determination on their faces. The tide has turned. Today, we show the Krell that humanity is done retreating. The first Krell shots flashed across space toward Leviathan, signaling the true beginning of the battle. But for the first time in 15 years of war, humanity held the upper hand. The Krell fleet scattered after the battle at Proxima Centauri. For the first time in 15 years, they retreated. The news spread quickly through human space. Celebrations broke out on every colony. Leviathan had changed everything. Admiral Han stared at the star map on the bridge. It showed Krell territory in red, with human space in blue. For years, the red had been expanding while the blue shrank. Now that was changing. Yellow markers showed recently abandoned Krell positions. They're pulling back to their core systems, said Lieutenant Kim. Sensors show they've completely abandoned the Tau Ceti and Epsilon Eridani sectors. Han nodded. They think distance will protect them from Leviathan. Will it? Asked Commander Park. No. Han zoomed in on the map. Our new quantum drive can reach their core worlds in 3 jumps. We don't need to wait for them to come to us anymore. We can bring the fight to them. For the next 2 months, Leviathan became the hunter. They jumped from system to system, tracking Krell battle groups and destroying them before they could mount a defense. The massive human warship appeared suddenly, unleashed its terrible weapons, and vanished again before reinforcements could arrive. At New Eden, they destroyed a Krell battleship group that had terrorized the outer colonies for years. At Hyperion, they eliminated a forward base the Krell had used to launch attacks on human shipping. In the Rigel system, They destroyed a major shipyard where the Krell had been building new warships. With each victory, more Krell-controlled systems were liberated. Human colonies that had lived under Krell occupation for a decade saw their oppressors flee. The prison camps where millions of humans had suffered were abandoned as the Krell forces pulled back. Aboard Leviathan, the crew's initial fear of their ship's power had given way to fierce pride. They worked with increasing confidence, becoming a finely tuned machine. The ship's systems, rushed into service 3 months earlier, were improved and refined during the campaign. After destroying a Krell supply depot in the Aldebaran system, Han called a meeting with her senior officers. "Our intelligence network reports that the Krell military is in disarray," she told them. "They've lost 40% of their fleet, 3 major shipyards destroyed. Their command structure is fractured." "The tide has turned," agreed Commander Park. "Their forces are retreating to their home systems. They've abandoned every conquered territory except Vega." Han nodded. "The question is, what do we do now? Do we follow them home?" The officers exchanged glances. Everyone knew what Han was suggesting. The Leviathan had the power to strike at the Krell homeworld itself. No human forces had ever penetrated that far into Krell space. "They started this war," said Weapons Officer Choi. "They attacked our colonies without warning. Why show mercy now?" "Because we're not them," replied Medical Officer Jun. "If we attack their civilian populations, how are we any different?" The debate continued until Commander Park raised his hand. "Admiral, there's something else you should know. We've received a transmission from the Krell High Council." Han raised an eyebrow. "What kind of transmission?" "They're requesting peace talks, Admiral. Unconditional discussions about ending the war." A heavy silence fell over the room. In 15 years of conflict, the Krell had never once suggested peace. Their philosophy of expansion through conquest was well known. "It's a trap," said Security Chief Yoon. "They want to get close to Leviathan, study it, or destroy it." "Our intelligence suggests otherwise," Park replied. "Their military is genuinely broken. They've never faced a weapon like the gravity lance before. It's changed their strategic calculations." Han stood up and walked to the viewport. Stars streaked by as Leviathan cruised at sublight speed. "Even if it's genuine, do they deserve peace? Think of the millions who died in their prison camps, the colonies they destroyed." Her voice grew hard. "My family died on New Shanghai. How many of your families suffered the same fate?" The officers were quiet. Many had lost loved ones to the Krell. "Admiral," Park said gently, "we have to decide what kind of victory we want. One that ends this war, or one that starts the next." Han turned back to face them. "Explain." "If we strike at their homeworld, we might destroy their current military completely. But their species would never forget or forgive. We'd be looking at generations of continued conflict." Park brought up an image of a Krell civilian settlement. "They have families too, Admiral." "And if we accept peace talks?" Han asked. "We negotiate from a position of overwhelming strength. We can demand reparations, return of prisoners, demilitarize zones. We can reshape the relationship between our species." Han looked around at her officers. "I want your honest opinions. Do we continue the campaign to their homeworld, or do we accept the peace overture?" The debate lasted hours. In the end, they were divided. Half wanted to press the advantage and crush the Krell completely. Half believed that true victory meant finding a path to lasting peace. At last, Han made her decision. "Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we'll escort the diplomatic team to the peace conference." She looked at the star map again. "But keep all weapons systems on standby. If this is a trap, the Krell will learn that Leviathan's mercy extends only so far." As the message was sent, Han stayed alone on the bridge, looking out at the stars. For the first time since New Shanghai fell, she allowed herself to imagine a future without war. The space station orbiting Ta City gleamed like a silver coin against the darkness. Built years before the war, It had once been a place of scientific cooperation between species. Now it served as neutral ground for the most important diplomatic meeting in human history. Admiral Han stood at the viewport in the human delegation's quarters, watching as shuttles brought the Krell representatives aboard. In the distance, Leviathan floated silently, its massive hull reflecting the light of Ta Ceti. The ship's presence was no accident. Every Krell arriving at the station would see humanity's ultimate weapon waiting. "The Krell delegation has docked," announced Commander Park. "Their Supreme Commander Krell himself is leading them." Han turned away from the window. "That's unexpected. He's never left their home system before." "It shows how seriously they're taking these talks," said Ambassador Lee, the chief diplomat sent from Earth. A small woman with silver hair, she had spent decades in diplomatic service before the war. "Or how desperate they've become." "Both, most likely," Han replied. She straightened her formal uniform. "Let's not keep them waiting." The meeting room was circular, with a round table at its center. Banners of both species hung on opposite walls. The human delegation entered from one side, the Krell from the other. Han had seen Krell before, but only in combat situations or recordings. Standing in peaceful surroundings, they were even more alien. Tall and insectoid, with 4 arms and iridescent exoskeletons, they moved with unsettling grace. Their compound eyes reflected the room's light in fractured patterns. Supreme Commander Krell stood taller than the others of his species. His exoskeleton bore elaborate markings indicating his high rank. When he spoke, a translator device converted his clicking speech to human language. "We meet at last without weapons between us," he said. His voice through the translator sounded flat and artificial. "Though your great ship watches from above." "A precaution," Ambassador Lee replied smoothly, "just as I'm sure you have vessels of your own nearby." The Krell commander made a gesture that might have been acknowledgement. "Shall we begin? The conflict between our species has gone on long enough." For the first hour, both sides simply established the framework for discussions. The humans presented their delegation, military officers, diplomats, and representatives from colonies that had suffered Krell occupation. The Krell introduced their own team, mostly military but with several members of their expansion council. When the formal introductions ended, Supreme Commander Krell moved directly to proposals. "The Dominion recognizes the technological superiority that humanity has demonstrated," he said carefully. "We are prepared to withdraw from all contested systems and establish a neutral zone between our territories." Ambassador Lee nodded politely but deferred to Admiral Han, a sign of respect for her military leadership during the war. "That's not enough," Han said, looking directly at the Krell leader. "We want more than withdrawn forces. We want access to all your military installations to verify disarmament. We want the return of all human prisoners. And we want those responsible for the massacres at New Eden and other colonies." The Krell commander's compound eyes seemed to flash. "You ask for our complete surrender." "I ask for justice," Han replied firmly. "You started this war by attacking peaceful colonies. We're finishing it." The Krell delegation conferred among themselves with rapid clicking sounds. "What you propose would require us to submit to human authority," the commander finally said. "Our species has never bowed to another." "Nor had we," Han responded, "until your forces occupied our colonies and subjected our people to 15 years of brutality." The negotiations grew tense. Several times they seemed on the verge of collapse. During one particularly heated exchange, a Krell diplomat accused humans of planning genocide through Leviathan's power. Admiral Han had to be restrained by Ambassador Lee from walking out entirely. On the third day during a break in formal talks, Han found herself alone in an observation room with Supreme Commander Krell. They stood in uncomfortable silence, watching stars through the viewport. "Your weapon," the Krell finally said. "This gravity lance, it changes everything." Han nodded. "That was the intention. You could destroy our homeworld with it." "Yes." The Krell commander turned his alien face toward her. "Then why seek peace at all? Why not simply annihilate us?" Han considered her answer carefully. Because extermination isn't our goal. It never was. We fought to survive, not to conquer. Yet now you could conquer if you wished. The strongest position is one where you don't need to use your strength, Han replied. My people want lasting peace, not just victory in war. The Krell was silent for a long moment. In our history, we have never encountered a species that had the power to destroy us, but chose not to. It is difficult to understand. Perhaps that's why this peace is so important, Han said. It's something new for both our species. When formal negotiations resumed, the Krell approach had subtly changed. They still resisted many human demands, but they engaged more seriously with proposals for prisoner exchanges and war crimes investigations. As the talks entered their second week, both sides began to realize the true stakes. This wasn't just about ending a war. It was about defining the relationship between two powerful civilizations for generations to come. Leviathan had changed everything, not just militarily but politically. On the final day, as they prepared to sign the preliminary peace accords, Supreme Commander Krell approached Admiral Han privately. Your ship revealed our weakness, he said, but your restraint revealed your strength. My species will remember both lessons. Han nodded. As will mine. The document they signed that day was just the beginning. The real work of peace would take years. But as Han looked out at Leviathan standing guard over the proceedings, she allowed herself to hope that the ship built for war might ultimately be remembered for bringing peace. Sunlight from Epsilon Eridani reflected off the massive research station orbiting the third planet. 5 years ago, this star system had been a battlefield. Now it was a symbol of cooperation between humans and Krell. Admiral Han Jui stood on Leviathan's bridge, watching through the main view screen as the station powered up for the first time. Its unique design reflected the joint effort that had created it, one half built to human specifications, the other to accommodate Krell biology. In the center, laboratories equipped for both species would study technology that might benefit both civilizations. Final power systems are online, reported Lieutenant Kim from her sensor station. The station director sends her compliments and thanks Leviathan for standing watch during the activation process. Han nodded. Send our congratulations in return. The bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency around her. After 5 years, Leviathan had become the pride of the human fleet. Its technologies had been refined, its weapons improved. Yet it had not fired its gravity lance in anger since the final battle of the war. Admiral Park entered the bridge, now wearing insignia matching Han's own. His promotion had come 2 years after the Treaty of Ta Siti, well earned for his role in both the war and the peace. Quite a sight, he said, moving to stand beside Han. Did you ever think we'd be here, working alongside them? Han's eyes remained fixed on the station where human and Krell scientists now worked together. No, she admitted. When we built this ship, I thought only of destroying them. Things change. People change, Han corrected. I've learned something important about power, Park. The truly powerful don't need to constantly demonstrate their strength. Below the research station, the planet slowly turned. Once contested, now it was being transformed. Terraforming equipment from Earth worked alongside Krell atmospheric processors. In 50 years, it would be habitable for both species, the first truly shared world. The Krell ambassador is requesting permission to come aboard, announced the communications officer. He wishes to pay his respects before returning home. Han raised an eyebrow in surprise. Grant permission. I'll meet him in the diplomatic reception area. The Krell ambassador was younger than most of his kind that Han had met. His exoskeleton was less hardened, the markings of rank still fresh. He bowed in the human fashion as Han entered. Admiral Han, he said through his translator. It is an honor to stand aboard the legendary Leviathan in peace. The honor is mine, Ambassador Tyke, Han replied. Your work on the research station has been impressive. The Krell made a gesture of modest acceptance. My elders still speak of this ship with fear. They remember when it appeared above our homeworld. Han nodded. At the end of the war, Leviathan had made one final jump to the Krell home system itself, not to attack, but to demonstrate that peace was a choice, not a necessity. The message had been clear. Humanity could strike at the heart of Krell civilization, but chose not to. "And what do the younger Krell think of Leviathan?" Han asked. "We see it differently," the ambassador replied. "To us, it represents the point where our histories changed course. The moment when endless expansion gave way to cooperation." After the ambassador departed, Han returned to the bridge. The ship was preparing for a routine patrol of the border zone between human and Krell space. Though peace had held for 5 years, both sides maintained vigilance. "Leviathan has become more than a warship," Han said to Park as they watched the final preparations for departure. "It's a symbol now." Park nodded. "Its technology has revolutionized human civilization. The artificial singularity drive alone has changed everything from power generation to colony development." "But that's not what I mean," Han said quietly. "This ship represents the terrible responsibility that comes with power. We could have used it to destroy the Krell completely. Instead, we chose a harder path." "You chose," Park corrected. "Many wanted to continue the war to total victory." Han shook her head. "We built Leviathan to win a war. But I've come to believe its real purpose is to prevent the next one." As if responding to her words, the ship's quantum communication array suddenly lit up. The communications officer looked up with alarm. "Admiral, we're receiving an urgent message from Deep Space Monitoring Station Omega. Priority 1. "Put it through," Han ordered. The message was brief but clear. Long-range sensors had detected something massive entering the galaxy from deep space. The object was decelerating at the edge of the Oort cloud, changing course in a way natural objects couldn't. It was a ship or a fleet, far larger than anything humans or Krell had built, and it was headed toward inhabited space. Han and Park exchanged glances. After 5 years of peace, both understood immediately what this might mean. "Notify Earth Command," Han ordered. "Then send a message to the Krell High Council. Mark it urgent, direct to Supreme Commander Krell." "What should it say, Admiral?" asked the communications officer. Han looked out at the stars, her expression resolute. "Tell them we may face a common threat. Ask if they will stand with us as we stood against them." Within hours, a response came from the Krell homeworld. It contained only 3 words: "We stand together." As Leviathan prepared to jump to the coordinates where the unknown object had been detected, Han looked around at her crew, humans who had fought a terrible war and helped build a fragile peace. "Prepare for quantum jump," she ordered, "and ready all systems." Humanity's ultimate warship would soon face its greatest test, not just of its power, but of the wisdom of those who wielded it. And this time, they would not face it alone.